Chapter 549, 8 Arrays of Demon Slaying and Ember Kylin. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. The water of the bloody trench was originally blood red, but due to there being no light under the sea, it appeared to be pitch black. Swoosh! The golden light spot in the distance was getting closer and eventually formed into a figure. It was a monk glowing in a golden light. He was stalwart and walked with steady steps, with a blade box behind his back. He walked slowly as if he had walked under the sea for thousands of years. "It's the monk again." Zhang Yuochen looked over and smiled bitterly. He was Monk Lidai of the Brahma sect. Monk Lidai impressed people with an indestructible body, which seemed to be cast in gold. White Sanskrit was faintly visible on his skin. Every step he took, a massive Buddha spirit condensed beneath his feet and turned into a 3-foot-long golden lotus. Monk Lidai took 7 steps and left 7 golden lotuses. Looking up at the 7 golden lotuses, they appeared to be 7 brilliant stars. Adhering to some mysterious path, they were suspended in the Black Sea and reflected the surrounding water into golden red. Monk Lidai stared at Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King, clasped his hands, and said, "Amitabha." "Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King, you should not come here. You'd better return to the place where you came from." The king never expected that a monk would suddenly appear at this moment. He carefully looked at the monk and sensed a strange power. It seemed to be either strong or weak, creating an erratic feeling. It was the first time for Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King to meet such a weird man. He was on alert but behaved aggressively. He snorted and said, "The bloody trenches are Red Cloud Python tribe's territory. I can come and go as I please. Who dares to dictate to me?" Monk Lidai shook his head and said with a sigh, "Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King, you misunderstand me. This poor monk is asking you to leave here for your own good. The bloody trench is not auspicious. It is extremely dangerous and full of death traps for you. If you don't leave immediately, I'm afraid that you will die at the bottom of the trench. If you don't leave, you will die in the bloody trench." The words were ear-piercing. Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King thought that he could deal with any situation in the bloody trench. Therefore, he did not take the monk's words seriously. Instead, the king even thought that the monk's words were threatening him thoroughly and warning him. Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King looked coldly as he said, "What an extremely arrogant monk. Do you think you can kill me? You misunderstand me. You misunderstand me. This poor monk never kills anything." Monk Lidai forced a friendly smile and spoke kindly. Zhang Yuochen laughed and thought, "This monk really does not kill anything, but he is a jinx. If he says who dies, that person will die. He is indeed a disaster." He wondered if it would be accurate this time. Monk Lidai looked strong, ugly, and ferocious like a butcher. The original friendly and gentle smile appeared to be a little hideous on his face. Looking at his grim smile, Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King felt even more that the monk was really arrogant. After all, he was the lord of the Flood Dragons, a 6th-level savage beast. How did a man dare to threaten him? The king certainly could not bear it. "Monk, I want to witness your ability." Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King transformed his feet into a 100-foot-long red tail. He violently wagged his tail in the water and stirred up a vortex of waves. He rushed forward and arrived in front of Monk Lidai instantly. His hands struck forward and turned into a pair of over 30-foot-long claws. Threads of fire gushed out from the claw scales, glowing brightly. The sea hundreds of feet around was boiling. He violently attacked with his claws, which were covered by water and fire. Obviously, he displayed his real skill this time. The power that broke out from this strike was a little bit stronger than what had erupted the last time that he fought Zhang Yuochen. Thus, it was clear that Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King thought that Monk Lidai was indeed a formidable enemy who was more threatening than Zhang Yuochen. The king did not know Monk Lidai's cultivation, but Zhang Yuochen knew it very well. Monk Lidai had just reached the first change in the Fish Dragon realm. Monk Lidai could not control space, so the water pressure would suppress him to a large extent. In that case, it was impossible for a monk at the first change in the Fish Dragon realm to fend off the attack of a half-saint. Even though he had integrated with Buddhist Emperor's golden body and been thoroughly remolded, Monk Lidai could not unleash all the power of the golden body. With such a huge disparity in cultivation, Was Monk Lidai able to withstand Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King's attack? The monk always haunted Zhang Yuochen, but he had never harmed him. Therefore, when the king launched his attacks, Zhang Yuochen was worried about him. Monk Lidai heaved a sigh. Originally, he had wanted to persuade the king into retreating. But beyond his expectations, he led him to a bigger misunderstanding. At this time, he was not allowed to explain but could only meet the battle head-on. He put his hands together and formed a magic handprint. The 7 golden lotuses beneath his feet immediately formed a pattern. Each lotus was a node of the pattern and turned into a golden Buddha shadow. 8 arrays of demon slaying. The 7 Buddha shadows plus Monk Lidai made 8 figures in total. They seemed to be interconnected and they formed a battle formation. The 8 arrays of demon slaying was a kind of combined attack. Only when 8 Buddha masters practiced at the same time could its power be exerted. However, Monk Lidai used Buddha spirit to condense into 7 golden lotuses, replacing the other 7 people. He alone displayed the 8 arrays of demon slaying. He struck out one palm. At the same time, the other 7 Buddha shadows also did the same. The 2 forces collided with each other and suddenly formed a storm of genuine chi. Monk Lidai and the 7 Buddha shadows were beaten backward 1,000 feet. Monk Lidai was repelled by the king, but he was not injured. Although the king's claws hit his body, his skin was not broken at all. Awesome! Zhang Yuochen said with some surprise. At the first change in the fish dragon realm, Monk Lidai was able to resist the king's strike unscathed. Once this result was spread around Kunlun's field, he would set the world on fire. Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King was also amazed and withdrew his claws. He transformed them into human hands but felt his 10 fingers begin to ache. Just now, his claws had obviously struck Monk Lidai. However, they were unable to hurt him, as if they had hit against metal. It was so incredible. The king looked at Monk Lidai and squinted his eyes. I get it. Your bodily strength is far beyond your cultivation realm, known as the realm of flesh becoming holy. But you still do not know how to exert this fleshly power. Otherwise, you could slap me to death right now. Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King was certainly the king of savage beasts, who had lived for thousands of years. He was experienced and knowledgeable, so with just a glimpse, he saw through Monk Lidai's secret. However, he did not know what Monk Lidai had integrated with was Buddhist Emperor's golden body. Monk Lidai smiled with modesty and said, "This poor monk has not practiced long, so my cultivation is not profound. Meanwhile, my control over power remains in the foundation stage, so I cannot compare with you." Seeing Monk Lidai's grim smile, the king got furious and began to condense power again. Since this monk had reached the realm of flesh becoming holy, he would spare no effort to seize this body. If he could eat this body and refine it, his strength would probably greatly improve. Perhaps he would reach the medium level or even the superior level of a 6th level savage beast. Zhang Yuochen knew clearly that Monk Lidai alone could not defeat the king. Therefore, he swam toward him without hesitation. He stood behind the king and waved his sword sideways. Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King, don't forget about me. Originally, Blackie had hidden in the distance. Suddenly, he exclaimed, Zhang Yuochen, I just sensed a formidable power rapidly approaching us from above. Zhang Yuochen, Monk Lidai, and Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King simultaneously discovered the aura. Looking up, the king saw a scarlet blaze covering the entire sea area above his head and the whole bloody trench seemed to blaze up. As the sea temperature increased rapidly, the sea was as hot as lava. Even the red cloud python at the third change in the fish dragon realm could not withstand such a high temperature. It screamed as if it was being boiled by the sea. Damn, that is Ember Kylin. The king changed his facial expression and ignored Zhang Yuochen and Monk Lidai. Giving a long whistle, he restored himself to his true body. He became a huge flood dragon 1,000 feet long and rushed toward the bottom of the trench. Ember Kylin had evolved from humanoid fish, and was a medium-level 6th level savage beast. The king was just an inferior level 6th level savage beast. When seeing the Ember Kylin, he could only escape to the bottom of the trench, hoping to avoid a disaster. Hurry up! Zhang Yuochen grasped Blackie and immediately displayed space moving, then rushed toward the bottom of the trench. Monk Lidai had already reached the realm of flesh becoming holy, so he was much faster than Zhang Yuochen and passed right by him. Space moving did not need to consume time. Every time he displayed space moving, Zhang Yuochen could only move 500 feet at most. Then, he needed a momentary pause to condense space power again. By doing so, he could continue to display the next space moving. So because of this, Zhang Yuochen's speed was at a disadvantage on a long journey. Ouch! An ear-splitting Kylin's roar resounded. The thick sea water above was pushed away by a mass of rolling fire clouds and it ran downward hastily. By looking carefully, a winged Kylin could be seen in the center of the mass of fire clouds. It was chasing after Zhang Yuochen and getting closer and closer to him.